Welcome to the Influential Personal Brand Podcast. This is the place where we help mission-driven messengers just like you learn how to build and monetize your personal brand. My name is Rory Vaden, and I'm the co-founder of Brand Builders Group, a Hall of Fame speaker, and New York Times bestselling author. And this show is to help experts learn how to become more wealthy and well-known. I know you're going to love it. Thanks for being here. Let's get started.
This is perhaps the single most important mindset hack to people who conquer and achieve huge, massive, impossible goals. And I'm going to read for you a passage from a book that captures this really well. When I interview some of the most successful people on the planet, they consistently talk about a mindset that pushes them toward a destination. But more than that, it's one that embraces the path and one that finds joy in the journey. Their mentality is altogether different. While most people seem to complain and rant about life's challenges, ultra successful people seem to learn to fall in love with the daily grind. Successful people take pride in tackling the tasks that other people rebuke. They understand that there is no real finish line, no magic moment when they will arrive. No magic moment when they get to rest on their laurels. Discipline is a perpetual process, and the growth is in the journey. That came from my first book, Take the Stairs. In the very first chapter, this is on page 26, this book was originally published in 2012. And it is as true, if not more true today than ever before. The single greatest mindset hack of people who achieve the impossible is this. They learn to fall in love with the daily grind. That's it. They learn to fall in love with the daily grind. And I was reminded of that on this most recent podcast interview I did with Mike and Cass Lazaro. These are two entrepreneurs who have had multiple exits. Their first company, they sold for $25 million. Their second company, they sold for over $700 million. To Salesforce. They've sold businesses for $5 billion. They've been advisors to companies like Liquid Death and hundreds of others. And we were talking about their journey as entrepreneurs and what they have really, really learned and what their secret was. And so what I'm going to share with you right now are 3 tactics, 3 tricks to help you do a better job in your own life of embracing this mindset of falling in love with the daily grind. And this is much simpler than you might realize, but if you don't teach yourself to think this way, you will never do it because it is not at all natural. Okay? So here's the 3 hacks that I want you to focus on. Hack number 1, remind yourself that perseverance is the priority. Remind yourself that perseverance is the priority. Perseverance is the goal in and of itself, not some other invisible finish line that is a mirage, right? Not some number, not some date on the calendar, not some achievement or goal of just like, oh, I conquered this objective. It's fine to have those goals, but the ultimate goal, the ultimate trick or hack of the mindset of ultra performers is that there's not like a finite thing that they're pursuing. What they realize is that perseverance in and of itself is the priority. Perseverance is the goal. In other words, just keeping going is the main focus. Just not quitting, just not giving up, continuing to pursue and grow and improve and develop. That is the priority. When you do that, when you embrace that as the objective, when you embrace that as your source of truth, you start to care less about what the numbers are and what the deadlines are and where are you at compared to some arbitrary date on a calendar, or how are you doing compared to other competitors or to other arbitrary sort of budgets and timelines that you say or you determine that should be successful. You let all of that go and you go, no, the goal is to keep going. The goal is like in Finding Nemo, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. That is the goal. Because perseverance is the ultimate indicator of success. Is just going, my only backup plan is to get back up, to get back on my feet, and just to keep going, and just to stay the course. That's really all you need. And so when you shift from having this like arbitrary focus on objective things to a more perpetual, like ever improving of just, I want to get better and I just want to keep going, it changes everything. Because perseverance, the person who perseveres is the person who's going to win. So that's the first one. Remind yourself that perseverance is the priority. Number 2, remind yourself that if you can learn to love the hard parts of what you're doing, everything else becomes easier. If you can learn to love the hard parts of what you're doing, then everything else becomes easier. If you resist the hard parts, if you shy away from the hard parts, if you're scared of the hard parts, if you run away from the hard parts, if you avoid the hard parts, then you give the hard parts power, right? They get bigger as you worry about them. They grow in their power over you because you're admitting this like reluctance or this weakness that you have to deal with these things. And another thing that I said, and take the stairs, procrastination is and indulgence are nothing more than creditors that charge you interest. Waiting makes it worse. Waiting makes it feel more difficult than it really is. On the contrary, if you can fall in love with the hard parts, if you can embrace the hard parts, if you can learn to find joy in the things that are difficult, then everything else is easy, right? So make the challenge, make your focus less about how do I do more of the easy stuff, and make your focus more of how do I fall in love with the hard stuff? Because if you fall in love with the hard stuff, then everything is easy. But if you only focus on trying to do more of the easy stuff, then all the hard parts grow in their power, and there's this looming shadow that is always sort of hanging over you that you're running from. If you can embrace that as part of your mentality, it unlocks so much opportunity. It unlocks freedom. It unlocks emotional health. It unlocks confidence. It unlocks courage because you realize I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of the hard parts. I welcome the hard parts. I dominate the hard parts. I fall in love with the hard parts. So that's the second thing is if you can remind yourself, if you can learn to love the hard parts, everything else becomes easier. And then finally, the third little trick, the third little tactic here for this ultimate mindset hack is remind yourself that when it gets hard, that's where everyone else quits. Where it gets hard is where everyone else quits. I sometimes refer to this as the law of the moat, right? What is a moat? Think of a castle, right? A castles, they used to have moats, which were, these like rivers that they would put around, and they would put alligators in the moat. And so that moat was a source of protection that you had to get through that incredibly difficult barrier in order to make it to the castle. Well, everything that is difficult in your business, everything that is hard for you to get past, every obstacle that you have to overcome, every challenge that you have to circumvent or navigate around becomes a moat of protection for you. What is a challenge for you today becomes a layer of protection for you against competitors later. Why? Because just like it was hard for you to conquer, it will also be hard for others to conquer. And so the harder your journey is, the more secure you are from other competitors coming in, right? People tend to gravitate towards the easy things. We live in an escalator mindset world. That's where the whole metaphor of take the stairs comes from. Well, it is always going to be true. And so when you do hard things, you not only get stronger, you not only get more capable, you not only develop a stronger character, you also develop a naturally stronger layer of protection against other copycats and against other competitors and other people entering your space. When you think like that, it causes you to approach the challenges and the obstacles you're facing today differently. You go from, why is this happening to me? And oh my gosh, this is so hard, to instead being grateful to go, wow, nobody is ever going to get through this, right? So few people are ever going to have the stamina and the discipline and the character and the resilience and the perseverance to overcome the kind of challenges that our team is overcoming today. And you take pride in that. You get excited about that. and you go, yeah, we're going to conquer this. We're going to make it through this. You know what? This is hard, but we're going to survive. We're going to make it through it. And when we do, it's going to become one of the very things that protects us in the future, one of the very things that sets us up for long-term sustainable success. You may not realize it, but this type of thinking is exactly the type of thinking that separates the wealthiest people, the biggest companies, the most successful sports teams, the most impactful nonprofits, the highest performers, the ultra performers in all walks of life. They have learned to embrace the hard stuff. They have learned to find joy in the journey. They have learned to do the things that others aren't willing to do. They have a take the stairs mindset, and they have learned to fall in love with the daily grind. Make sure you leave a comment down below about where you have fallen in love with the daily grind in your life, and share this video with someone who needs to see it. Also, if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button so that you get access to more of our content. We'll see you next time.